It's been fascinating to see how much you can do when you have the entire world as your talent pool. I think like in the first 12 months, we hired more than 750 team members. So it truly felt like flying on the plane while we're still building it. I think that I've seen this positive change in terms of like moving away from just quantity and like the number of hires and butts and seats that you put in place, but being very intentional about the quality. We introduced a TA Digest bot that is powered by AI, which means that whenever there is an important announcement, no matter in which channel it is, like it could be company related, it could be specific to the people team or to the talent acquisition team, we just react with special emoji, which is TA Digest. And so we basically introduce AI interviews as the first step of the hiring process. And after that, the recruiter would step in and interview the top scoring candidates. But it was a really interesting and successful one. And I believe that this is something that we will continue experimenting with.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Leaders in Talent podcast. And I'm very happy that today Anastasia is with me. Anastasia and I, we go way back, even in her period when she was still at GitLab. But currently, Anastasia is the director of TA at Remote, one of the fastest growing unicorn companies in the world. Before Remote, Anastasia built and led the global sourcing team at GitLab, while previously driving recruiting initiatives at Fortune 500 companies like Uber and Dell. Anastasia is extremely passionate about people and how technology can bring positive change for people. And this is driving her career in recruitment. Anastasia, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. After all this time that we've known each other, finally, we are recording this together.
I know. And the funny thing is that you're in Amsterdam and I'm in New York, right? Like, what are the odds that we can't do this in person?
That was well planned.
Yeah. I know, well planned, but I'm happy that we get a chance to speak. What's actually fascinating is that at our first TRC, the recruitment conference that we organize at the beginning of November each year in Amsterdam, is that our first speaker, our main opening speaker, was Job van der Voort, the founder of Remote.com. And I remember at the time, Remote was still like 100 to 150 people company, but like blowing up, like super rapidly growing. Now, many years later, things look very differently. Can you paint a little bit of a picture, what you do with what Remote does, how you're set up, and what hiring looks like in a fully remote company like Remote.com?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love going back this memory lane because I joined Remote when the company was 200 people big. Now, 4 years after, we are almost at 2,000 people mark. I have a funny feeling that my team has something to do with that. So it's been an interesting time. We know how to keep ourselves busy at Remote. So speaking about the nature of our business, I would say that we position ourselves as an HR platform. So basically, we help companies to hire, manage, and pay their team members no matter where they are in the world. And when it comes to the talent acquisition team, we truly live to the mission that we have at Remote. We always say that talent is everywhere, while opportunity is not. So when we were building the team at Remote, we were really focusing on making sure that we tap into the global talent network and we bring individuals from all the different locations on board. So right now we have team members in more than 80 countries and we hire remotely. Yeah, that's quite impressive. I would say that something that makes our hiring very different from kind of like the traditional approaches is that usually whenever we open a role, we never know where we will end up hiring a person. So it's always a crazy gamble that we do. And definitely there are some rules that can have time zone requirements or could be more location specific, for example, in sales, in customer support, but those are still the minority of the roles that we are working on. And yeah, it's been fascinating to see how much you can do when you have the entire world as your talent pool.
I have so many questions, Anastasia. It's funny, right? Like we wrote down like a couple of questions to ask her, because Matcher is a fully remote company, right? Like not at your size. So many of the things that you've been able to overcome, like I am personally also super curious on how you've been able to solve. Let's go back through the memory lane, right? Employee number 200, currently you 10x, right? You're 2,000 people. Tell me about that journey. One, how do you build your team? How do you decide where you want to have what people? How have you been able to have a strong, cohesive culture, right, while scaling up? Yeah, tell me more.
So many questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say that it was definitely an interesting moment in time, because when I joined Remote, we were about to announce our Series C round of funding, crazy growth. I think in the first 12 months, we hired more than 750 team members.
Wow.
So it truly felt like flying on the plane while we're still building it. I would say that the first year for me as a leader was all about building the foundations of the team. It was definitely hiring for my own team while the business was also growing and scaling. And I think that it's always a hard choice that you need to make as a leader, rather whether you would run and hire for the business or first you staff your team.
Yeah.
And we were really trying to do this in parallel. So as I said, the first year was all about building the foundations and the processes that were designed to support us and help us move further and help us with scaling. I would say that after that, the next years were really more about finding the efficiencies and investing into building out our own tech stack and really just taking hiring to the next level. And I would say that looking back at the past 4 years, I think that I've seen this positive change in terms of moving away from just quantity and the number of hires and butts and seats that you put in place, but being very intentional about the quality that you bring to the team and really raising and keeping the hiring bar very, very high. When it comes to the setup of my team, all the recruiters are aligned to support a specific division. So there is no limitation for them that is defined by their location. So let's say if you're a go-to-market recruiter, you work across all the go-to-market roles, no matter where they are.
Across time zones too, Anastasia? Across all time zones?
In majority of cases, yes. I would say that it's funny that you use the go-to-market example. Maybe it wasn't the most ideal one, because indeed in sales, for example, if we take this kind of as a separate discipline, we would have roles in Americas, in EMEA, and in APAC. There, of course, we apply common sense, right? It makes sense to have a Canadian-based recruiter to work on America's hiring, just to give more availability to the candidates and provide a better experience to them and also the hiring managers. But in the majority of cases, recruiters are hiring across all the territories, across all the different time zones, no matter where they are based. Because of that, the key goal for me when building the team was to almost mimic the business that we have. So we have team members in all these 3 macro regions. APAC is definitely a smaller market for us. So currently we have only 1 team member there, but the majority of recruiters are based either in EMEA, I would say Europe, or in the Americas time zone. And it works really well when it comes to collaborating with our hiring teams.
On the one hand, it's amazing that you can hire anywhere in the world, but what we've experienced is also it's also surprisingly overwhelming for a variety of different reasons. It's one, whenever we post a job adverts online and there's no time zone or no specific, the level of inbound, the number of candidates that we get is overwhelming, right? We get over 1,000 applicants within the first 24 hours, super quickly. And unfortunately, 95% of the people that apply are not the right fit for those roles. That's something that we experience. And then secondly, is by having people in different time zones, for us, the communication got very difficult in terms of alignment and people I'm doing this call 7 a.m. in the morning, right? Today we have our company meeting and the West Coast needs to down at 7 a.m. in the morning, while I have my people in Asia that are literally at 9 or 10 p.m. dialing in. How have you seen that, and how have you done anything differently compared to where you were at the beginning versus where you are now when you look at that?
Yeah. So when it comes to starting from the last point, right? The time zone difference, I would say that the way we organize all the get-togethers, be it team calls or social time, because I think that in this all remote environment, you should be intentional about creating these avenues for people to connect and get to know each other just outside of their day-to-day job responsibilities. So the way we approach this within the team is that for the live meetings, we rotate our schedule. So let's say this week we would have APAC EMEA friendly call, and then 2 weeks after it would be America's EMEA one. And then we are very big on the culture of documentation. So there is nothing that is just said on the meeting and then you can't find it anywhere. So we take really exhaustive notes. I would say that now AI is helping amazingly with that. We post all the calls summaries to our team channel. And because async remote work is the way how our company operates, we also rely heavily on Notion, which would be our go-to place for all the process questions. And Slack is the main channel of communication. So something that we recently introduced within the team, which we find really helpful, is an AI TA digest bot. So whenever there is an announcement,
say that one more
AI.
time.
Yeah, so we introduced a TA digest bot that is powered by AI, which means that whenever there is an important announcement, no matter in which channel it is, it could be company related, it could be specific to the people team or to the talent acquisition team, we just react with a special emoji, which is TA digest. And then on Friday, the team will receive a summary that is AI summarized on all the things that happened throughout the week. And I think that it's been really appreciated by the team because of all the noise and this Slack fatigue that they're facing. So at the end of the week, you can really read through the most important updates. And usually it would be just one line per the update. And you would have a hyperlink you can click on and dive deeper into the actual message that was summarized. And this is something that helps us to stay up to date and also make sure that there is one channel of communication that every team member is supposed to check. And then it becomes their responsibility to make sure that all the important updates are the ones that they read. And I think that this also ties nicely to what you shared at the beginning about just the volume and the noise that can be very exhausting. You mentioned that you're receiving 1,000 applications in 1 hour. You're definitely not alone.
Well, not 1 hour. We're not that quick, but literally, a few months ago, we were hiring for a senior tech recruiter. And we posted, and within 24 hours, we passed 700 people that applied.
Yeah, we receive our average numbers is that we receive 30,000 applications on a monthly basis, which pretty much aligns with what you shared, right? It's 1K per day. So this is how it works. And I would say that it's definitely about filtering through sometimes noise, unfortunately. So when it comes to the way we approach applications and structuring the application review, I would say that right now we are experimenting a lot with AI tools that are designed and supposed to help us. We just recently ran an experiment with AI interviews and it was really successful. So we basically introduced AI interviews as the first step of the hiring process. And after that, the recruiter would step in and interview the top scoring candidates. But it was a really interesting and successful one. And I believe that this is something that we will continue experimenting with.
I remember us talking previously. Is it something that you've built yourself or is that an external tool that you're using?
Yeah, we are relying on something that we are developing ourselves. I believe that we will be sharing more in the upcoming months on that. But as always, dog fooding is the key word at Remote, right? You first need to try it yourself. And I think that it brings some really nice pressure to the internal teams that are building it. If you're frustrated with your own product, you really want to fix it and do way better. So we always test everything that we build ourselves within the people team because we have an HR platform, right? So all our internal processes are supported by remote platform. And that's the way how we roll in recruiting as well. So AI interviews are very interesting. I would say that we are yet to see what would be the actual impact, right? And how it will influence the way we work on capacity planning, right? Like workforce planning for the talent acquisition team. So I'm very curious to see what would be the results of this experiment over the next few months. Together with that, going back to the application volume, we are very big on application questions, and we are definitely using knockout questions. So like those that are auto-rejecting candidates, we're using a lot of questions that can help us create certain categories and almost like buckets within the applications that we receive. And I would say that in majority of cases, recruiters go and source through the applications that they received rather than just traditionally clicking through applications one by one.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, and you also mentioned a little bit in terms of the culture and the social elements within remote. I remember talking actually when you spoke 4 years ago at TRC. He mentioned there were specific channels for hobbies, specific channels for if people like to do board games, but it felt very voluntarily, right? Like if you like this game, you can join this channel and then you can connect with your colleagues, but it's not mandatory, and also time zone wise, it won't always line up. How is that now, and what do you do in your team for people to feel connected to your team, to each other, and also to the wider organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that you can never force people into socializing, right?
Yeah.
Be it an in-office environment or an all-remote one. So when it comes to kind of like the way we build these social connections, as you said, at the company level, we have tons of social channels, I don't know, like for pets, for parents, for specific hobbies, for gaming, etc. So I can't even give you like the number of how many social channels we have. So there are plenty. And I would say that you would always find something that resonates with you. So when it comes to kind of like, once again, this intentionality and creating these avenues for people to connect, during the standard onboarding process that we have at Remote, one of the days is fully dedicated to socializing. So out of 5 days, you would spend one on going out and exploring exactly the social channels that we have, but also connecting with strangers, because I think that that's one of the biggest challenges, I would say, of remote work, right? You get to talk to people within your team, but then finding these opportunities to connect with someone, let's say from the accounting team, if you work in recruiting, might be challenging. So one of the onboarding days is dedicated specifically to people going out and connecting with team members, with remoters outside of their direct team. And I think that it really helps to build this habit and like normalizing that talking to strangers within the same company is actually helpful and beneficial. And when it comes to my personal like my own team, I would say that the majority of the team members, like recruiters, they are on the calls all day long. And I think that like sometimes seeing yet another call on your calendar might not be necessarily something that you're looking for. With that, we have our monthly social call, once again, in 2 different time zones, so people can just connect and talk about random things. We also do, like, we also spend some time at the end of our team calls on just social activities, and the host of the call will come up with an idea of what we will be discussing or the game that we will be playing. But something that I truly enjoy and love about the way we communicate within the team is that, once again, we have our Friday Slack bot, and it's almost like a stand-up bot, but it's more focused on personal things, right? We just share one highlight, one low light of the week, and what we call random personal sharing. And honestly, that's my favorite Friday evening routine, when I go through all the sharings within the team. And I would say that, like, with the time, people really get comfortable with sharing and sometimes maybe oversharing. And it gives such a nice glimpse into their lives and also what's meaningful to them, right? Maybe, I don't know, like you had a nice walk in the park with your puppy and you would just post a photo, or you're like, it's not something big. And we really don't want these to be about like showing off, or you're like, you don't need to feel that you're like, there is something special that should kind of like force you to post. It's just literally like every week you just share something with your team, even if it's a very small thing, like very routine one, but it really, first of all, sparks discussions within the team. You like some, I don't know, like sharings, recommendations. And I think that it creates this feeling of belonging because you get to know your team members without being forced to do that. It could be as simple as reading through these personal updates, but I think that it's very meaningful, or at least something that I enjoy a lot.
In terms of the monthly social, how do you structure that? Like, help me understand, like, do you give prompts or is it just a free flow conversation? How does that work?
Unstructured. Yeah, when it comes to the monthly social, that's an unstructured one. And I think that this is where we truly kind of like found our joy, because we tried different approaches, right? Like we tried this different prompts, like sometimes there would be like a topic, questions, and etc. I think that first of all, I'm very lucky to have the team that is quite stable. Like the majority of the team members have been around for like 2 years and even more than that. So I think that, you know, like sometimes you just really want to have some, you know, like relaxed and chill time and just talk about random stuff. You know, like whatever comes to your mind. You know, like maybe we will have someone who just stepped out of the screening call that was a disaster, and we'll start, you know, like venting, you know, like and sharing all the stories, you know, like from our recruiting past that we faced. So I really appreciate like these 1 hour being unstructured. If there is nothing to discuss, if we feel that the conversation is not going smoothly, it's also fine to leave, right? Like, so it's really like not something that is led by me as the director or like one of my managers. It's just a place, you know, like to connect the same way you would do this, you know, like during your cooler talk. But then on the bi-weekly basis, we have small social activities that are structured and usually led by certain prompts. So I don't know, like we can share our most recent book recommendations, or I don't know, like you like play you like this or that. So there could be like a lot of different ways how we would spend this time. But for like the big social time investment, it's just a free flow, and I find this to be like the most enjoyable.
And when you said during the onboarding, connect with strangers, how's that set up? Is it just go through the alphabet and randomly reach out, or like is there a system behind it?
Yeah, we actually have a Slack channel. I think like we call it like "Do Not Be Strangers." So that's exactly the title. So there, like if you join this channel, you will be paired with other team members on this channel, and this is how you get connected. Definitely, sometimes your manager, and also there is an onboarding buddy that is assigned to you when you join remote, who can guide you like to specific teams or specific channels or specific people. But yeah, this is how we organize this on the back end. So it's pretty random, I would say. And I remember once a team member on my team, like they were paired with Yop, our CEO, like they were wondering like what would be the proper prep for the coffee chat with the CEO. But it was a very nice one, and kind of like, so like that's something that I would stress about.
So good. I love it. And I love that Job is still involved in that.
It's very meaningful. Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit. In terms of hiring globally, right? How do you decide where to hire? So time zone is one, but are they then also like in a specific time zone, specific countries that you favor versus over others? Is that the same or does that change? And two, how do you do with compensation? Like what's the strategy with compensation?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to the time zones requirements, as you said, yeah, that's absolutely on point, but only for a certain group of roles where indeed we need to have someone in a specific time zone. I would say that quite often there might be a language requirement attached to these. With that, it doesn't mean that we would go to a specific country. So let's say thinking about our sales team, we have a number of amazing Dutch speakers who are based in Spain. They're in the same time zone, they speak the language, but they get to enjoy sunny life in Spain. And this works perfectly for us. And once again, I think that this resonates with the mission of just allowing people to work from the places where they feel that they belong rather than just like some big tech or talent hubs. So when it comes to kind of like the way we think about hiring strategy in general, I would say that whenever we can, we really try to make the most out of our global approach when it comes to cost efficiencies, because this is something that can really make the long-term financial impact and gain. And the way we think about hiring is that whenever we have a global role, we would always start with prioritizing what we would call cost-efficient locations, but without discriminating people that are coming from other geographies. It's truly about hiring the best, no matter where they are. But when it comes to building the strategy behind that and also like having some direction and structure, we would always start with cost efficient geos. So when it comes to our pay philosophy, we are using a geo-tiering approach. So this means that every country, so we do this at the country level, has a certain geo that would define the pay that we will have in this location. So geo-tiering is basically based on cost of living, cost of labor, at the market rates in a specific location. And I would say that it's been working really well for us because this also helps us not only to make sure that we are competitive on a specific market or like within a specific country, but we also look at compensation from the value perspective. And I think that the beauty of our business is that we have a lot of knowledge internally and a lot of expertise. So whenever we think about compensation, it's not only about the cash component, right? Like the actual salary that he got, but we are also benchmarking our total rewards packages when it comes to the benefits that we provide, because like all the countries are very different in terms of like mandatory benefits and then the benefits that would come on top of that. So we are looking at the kind of like holistic gain that a team member would get in a specific location and making sure that our pay is fair and equal, and that we also take into account all the benefits that would be seen as traditional ones and like competitive ones in the location, but that like the value at the end is more or less similar.
Hey, and so this is something I'm just curious, and I don't know if you're experiencing it. What happens if someone relocates to a different country? Do you immediately adjust the salary when, let's say, someone goes from a lower cost country to a higher cost country, right? Do you automatically adjust the rate, or is that a discussion? Is there a general policy for that within remote?
There is a general policy, and I would say that it took us years to get to that. I would say that, I don't know, like I think that 4 years ago, relocations were just free flow. And honestly, like the relocation process is quite complex, right? Like it involves either like dealing with like local authorities and etc. But I think that quite often we underestimate the actual cost to the business that is attached to relocating someone from country A to country B. So because of that, we really had to put some guardrails. So for now, when we think about relocations, there is a certain list of kind of like criteria that you need to meet as a team member. So you should be working at remote for at least 2 years, because unfortunately we've seen some cases when people would just join remote to kind of like relocate from one country to another. And that's definitely not the motivation that we would like to nurture. We also look at the team members' performance. We want to make sure that this is something that is supported and makes sense to the business, because based on our company nature, you don't need to be in a specific location, and we would never ask you to relocate as a business, which means that all relocations are employee driven rather than company driven. So To go back to the question about compensation and kind of the nitty-gritty stuff, I would say that we have a certain system that is defined by our total rewards team. So compensation will be always adjusted to a new location. So let's say if you're moving, I don't know, like from San Francisco to Cape Town, there is no way that you will keep your compensation at the US level, San Francisco level. And once again, I can't say that these are always the most pleasant discussions or like the easiest ones, but we are very big on making sure that we treat everyone fairly, right? Like that this comes down to the internal equity. So while it took us some time to get this policy in place, I'm really proud of the fact that we apply this to everyone, like no matter like what is the level of their role, in which country they're based, to which country they're moving. And I think that we're doing the right thing. And that's always something that we aim to do at Remote.
Great. Yeah, it's something that we're experiencing now quite a bit, right? With people moving either to more expensive countries or vice versa, actually. And that conversation is always much harder when people go from a higher paid country to a lower paid country. It's like, okay, so what do we do with benefits? And to be honest, we just implemented our relocation, policy, very similar in line like yours, but we really have to articulate as well that people really understand why this is happening and how we use that.
Yeah, that's a hard one because relocations, especially when they're employee driven, right? Like they always have like this emotional side to these attached, right? So it's very hard to put aside all the emotions and like all the personal stories. And yeah, that's why implementing these policies, even though they are needed, I'm never a big fan.
Yeah. Hey, Anastasia, you've worked in remote companies for the last couple of years. What do you feel is a general misconception of working fully remote that other people have that might not be so familiar with working fully remote?
Well, this question, I would say that the biggest misconception is that when you're working remotely, you're lying on a beach, sipping your cocktail and just replying like to a few emails that would come to your inbox during the day. I would say that I think that remote work is as demanding as in-office work. And this is really defined by the company culture, stage of growth, and etc. I would say that remote is a very intense environment. And when it comes to hiring for our roles, something that we pay a lot of attention to is how we set these expectations and how we manage these expectations with the candidates, because we talk a lot about the culture of high performance and we truly live it. We live our values, and one of them is intensity. So it's a fast-paced environment. You don't have your work buddy next to you, right? Like sitting next to you, and you're like someone that can handhold you and guide you through the day. So it takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of autonomy from individuals and really commitment to executing things and delivering things, because we don't care about work hours, right? Like it doesn't matter how many hours you invested in kind of like doing something. What we care about is the output and the actual results. And I would say that for me, it's no different from what you would expect from other fast-paced companies who might be working in office or like in a hybrid paradigm. But yeah, the misconception is still there. I think that still a lot of people, when you talk to them and tell them that you're working remotely, they picture you just like somewhere having fun at the beach and just occasionally replying to a few messages.
Yeah. It's funny. I can echo that statement. Anastasia, this was so lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Honestly, it's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you. If anything, I took so many great lessons out of this as scaling a fully remote company. Always trying to learn from the best. Anastasia, what's the best way for people to connect with you? May I assume LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. I must admit my inbox is very busy, but I'm trying to keep up with it. So LinkedIn would be the best way.
Great. And anything exciting that's happening within the remote for the next until the end of the year, or things that we should be looking out for?
Well, I think that we have a bunch of exciting updates lined up. So keep an eye on remote and everything that we'll be sharing publicly.
Amazing. Anastasia, thank you so much.
Thank you.